Thank you.
Hello, everyone. How are you? I am Violet, your Tai Chi examiner. And many of you know that I have been writing articles about Tai Chi Qigong and other type of mind-body modalities for years. Actually, since 2009, I have written more than 700 articles. But about 2 years ago, I had a serious problem with the website. And there are so many problems that I don't want to bore you to death. However, I felt really desperate and I almost quit writing because I could not really publish my article the way I want to, and it could not even reach out to the subscribers. Then I was talking to Jamie, and Jamie was saying, maybe let me take a look. Maybe I can help you. And that's Jamie. And Jamie, she's how should I say, a very warm person and always ready to lend a helping hand. Of course, she's not saying has that very warm personality and very willing to help. And she's also a very capable hand. So today, and with her help and along with her friend, and they put my website together, and I'm functioning again. And thank you so much to Jamie. But at the same time, Jamie herself, she is a senior Qigong instructor, and she also has mastered many different, how should I say, healing techniques. And so today, and even though Jamie is always very, very busy doing this and that, and she made time for us. And so let's welcome Jamie. Yay!
Thank you, Violet.
Well, thank you so much for coming to talk to us. And so maybe you want to share your journey of doing the healing with everyone, how you started, and everybody started at a different reason. And then, of course, for me, it was very accidental, okay? And how about for you? How did you start it?
I think, like many people, we go on a healing journey because we discovered that there's something that could be better about your health, right? So I had
So you were not really sick. As some people say, they had a serious health issue. That's why, and they were searching and searching. They could not find any other ways to help them. And eventually they found Tai Chi. So not your case?
Well, a little both. I did have some reproductive issues, but it was eventual that I found Tai Chi. At first, I woke up to this idea that perhaps I could heal myself. I got a diagnosis, and at the very same time, that crossroads, I met people that were living a holistic life. They understood food as medicine. They had overcome even more serious health issues than I was confronted with. One woman, a teacher I had, was given 6 months to live, and that was 25.
Oh my God.
25 years later, she's thriving, she's healthy, she's teaching others, and I met her right at that time. So, of course, I had the option to handle the diagnosis through Western means and surgery, but I also was given about 6 months to see how I would do in a holistic way from a medical doctor that I was working with at the time, a Dr.
That
Christian.
was very nice and very progressive in thinking, in treatment. That's
very
great.
much so. Yeah, and I had not even considered that myself until you meet the right people at the right time. And so I went to see Dr. Christian Northrup, who has her own fame in the holistic world. And this was back in the 80s.
Wow.
So as I traveled along this idea that perhaps I could get to know myself better, I did find a Tai Chi path. And again, it was one of those junctures again. I went to visit my brother in Connecticut, and he was doing some hard martial arts, karate, and a lot of more of the outward hard martial arts. And I'd known he had been for a while. I think he came to be a black belt. And then his master said, okay, everybody stop, we're doing Tai Chi now. So that was the way that he learned. And I happened to go visit him, and his class was happening in a YMCA, and they're in the corner there and they're moving slowly. And I thought, well, that looks so cool, you know? So when I came back to the Boston area, I looked around. I said, is there a Tai Chi class around here? And back in the 80s, you know, you really had to look around. There was no yoga class on every corner like there is now. The holistic practices, someone had to kind of say, go over here, go over here. It wasn't a big marketing. But luckily, there was a place up here called Interface. And this was a place where you could learn a lot of different healing techniques and medicine from different cultures, meditation, and there was a Tai Chi class. So I signed up for the Tai Chi class. It was in a big gymnasium. There was probably 50 or 60 people there. And that was the beginning of my Tai Chi journey. Little did I know how it would continue to help to heal me. With those teachers, they were teaching in the Universal Healing Tao system from Master Mantak Chia. So that's how I was introduced through that system. And I went to classes in Qigong and meditation. And after each class, I had an experience. Like I felt taller, I felt lighter, I had spontaneous happiness, you know, and I thought, there's really something to this. Let me stick with it for a while, you know. And I recall my teachers at the time, they moved out of town to Colorado, and I had only really learned half of the form. So I thought, well, I'll practice that. I'll do what I can. And after a while, I kind of let it peter out, you know. Next thing you know, I get a brochure in the mail and said, let me know if you're interested in these classes. And there we had Tai Chi, Qigong, Qinate Song, abdominal massage, meditation. And the instructor was somebody named Marie Favorito, which I had never met before. So I thought, okay, that's the same Tai Chi class. Let me learn the other half of the form.
Wow, so you actually learned from Maria. That's
I
great.
did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was fantastic. And it was just like, again, it was one of those things where I wanted to go further, and then something came to me. So I got that brochure in the mail, you know? And from there, I just never stopped. I began learning Tai Chi, meditation, different Qigong forms, and then was introduced to another Tai Chi master, Master Weilin Huang, and he became my main Tai Chi teacher for the next 22 years until he passed.
So did he teach Yang style? Oh,
yes. Yeah, with Master Chia, that was a Yang style short form, which I still teach in classes. With Master Huang was the Yang style long form. We also learned a sword form with him.
Yeah, your sword form looks beautiful. And
a little snapshot in that photograph.
Yeah.
I absolutely
reminds me of Kill Bill, you know.
Yeah.
Uma Thurman have her sword there.
Yeah. You see a reflection in the blade, you know.
Yeah, looks so cool. And
it's so fun. Yeah. No, by all means. The sword form really helps you understand the space that I'm moving in. You need to know where the sword is at all times. When you want to bring it down, you don't want to hit the ground. You want to be able to be aware of the space around you. So when I put the sword down after practicing, I feel so expansive. So practicing any of these forms, I have an experience. It's not just wonderful philosophy, which it is. I have an experience of connection. I change physically, mentally, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, let me share a story with you. And a student of mine, and she actually went to many doctors. I'm talking about the Western doctors. And she was told, she was a young woman, and I think in her 20s, and she was told she could never conceive. She could not be a mother. Of course, even through adoption maybe, but she could never, conceive or carry a baby. And but with her determination, so she said, I am going to look for alternatives. And first she was getting some Chinese medicine, and then she came to my Qigong class. First, she would not say why she wanted to learn Qigong. So, okay. And about a few months later, and she told me, say, I am pregnant. We said, wow, that's great. But then she told me the story, and she was not able to do so. And then a year later, she got a healthy baby, and now the baby is almost 2. And I just love that baby. He looks so healthy and strong. And she called her son, he's my Chi baby.
Your Chi baby.
Yeah, she's the Chi baby. Yeah.
Yeah. And what a wonderful story, because people think that it's over and it'll never happen. That's the news they're given. I'm sorry, you'll never have a baby, and then they find another way of connecting with themselves and getting the energy moving for what you were able to teach her. She really got it. And then it becomes like a miracle.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's important for us to share these stories, so that people hear more of what's possible.
That's my whole purpose of writing the violentlytaichi.com. And as I mentioned, I have written more than 700 articles, and many of the articles I interview the practitioners and ask them why they practice and what they get out of it. And at the same time, I'm doing this kind of interview to go along with the stories. And I cannot thank you enough spending your busy time to meet with us and to share your experience and your knowledge. And since you have been into different type of how shall I say, healing techniques and methods. And I have heard a lot of people talk about the Alexander techniques. And what is that? And how do they relate it to, say, like the Chinese healing art of Tai Chi and Qigong?
Yeah. Well, the Alexander technique is quite profound. And it just so happened, as I was learning about Tai Chi and Qigong, I also started training with the Alexander technique. So I kind of had this parallel path where in practicing Tai Chi, I could apply what I was learning with the Alexander technique. And in the Alexander technique, I'd have these kinesthetic and, physical changes and insights mentally and freedom emotionally that would start to happen. So great transformation overall. I would say that the Alexander technique can help someone access the depth of their own human design in the way you coordinate yourself and move through utilizing your awareness and your consciousness. We have a body, we have a mind, we have emotions, we have a spirit. All of that is the whole self. Alexander coined a term, a long time ago, less than 100 years ago, but a long time ago, and he called it psychophysical unity. There doesn't seem to be a word in the English language for our wholeness, our holistic self, that would include all those aspects I mentioned, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So he wanted to bring those two together at a time, like earlier in the last century, where doctors and treatments would be like, a mental issue, you go over there. And a physical issue, you see that doctor. And if you're a woman, you better go see this doctor, because they didn't know how to blend it or understand the whole person. So Alexander brought that to play and recognized that he could start to change well, first of all, that maybe he was contributing to some of his problems. It wasn't something happening to him. He was someone who was an actor, and he kept losing his voice when he would recite Shakespeare or whatever. And there were no microphones in his day. So to be or not to be led to completely losing his voice. And over again, the doctors would say, well, your voice seems to be fine. Your throat is fine. Just rest and your voice will come back. And it always did. And then he asked himself that profound question, well, maybe I'm doing something that's contributing to my problem.
Mm-hmm.
And he spent many hours in front of a mirror trying to see what he was up to. And once he realized there was this whole compression happening when he would speak or even get ready to speak, he started to realize that he needed to not do that. It's not about doing something else. It's about subtracting the excess effort that you put into something.
I see.
Yeah.
So that's Alexander himself. You're talking about
that was his story.
personal experience.
Yeah.
I see.
And then he shared with his brother and began to teach other people. And he moved to England and he worked with artists because he was an artist. And the doctors of these dancers and actors would call him up and say, what are you doing? Because my patients are getting better. I want to understand, why are they getting better? And the whole idea is to understand how you are using yourself to do what you do. Are you aware that when you reach for the doorknob, you're going like this, right? And you're putting extra effort into your movements and your perceptions of the world that has become rather narrow. So if you narrow your mind, you're going to narrow your body.
Yes,
so
yes.
Shifting your awareness, your body follows suit, right? So it's about bringing consciousness into the moment and being more.
So can I ask you a question? Okay. So people, they learn so-called Reiki. Reiki is a form of a Qigong, and it's a Japanese system. But Reiki normally is, if I learned it, I will become a practitioner if I'm helping you, say, you're a patient. I help you to make you better. But for Alexander techniques is, I understand from what you describe it. If when you practice, first of all, you get better, right? But can you, how should I say, treat other people and without teaching them the whole thing, or they have to learn the system? How does that work?
Yeah, it is an educational model, and they don't have to learn what I know. An Alexander training course is 1,600 hours. It's usually over a 3-year period of time. So it's quite a commitment and a big transformation that happens for a person. And so when I speak to a person or put my hands on to make touch with them, I'm allowing for everything that I want them to come into and experience. I'm allowing for that to happen for myself. I'm freeing up myself. I'm finding a depth of support. It's really about choosing how you want to respond to any given stimulus. We're either going to react and we excite our fight or flight nervous system, or we can choose not to and then have so many more options in how you want to respond, how you want to move your arm for Tai Chi. I started applying Tai Chi and it was like I didn't even feel like that was my arm because it was so free. So when I work with someone else, I may put hands on. I may have them lie on a table, and I might speak to them about.
But you are not like, say, some of the Qigong master, when they lay a hand on someone, a patient, they actually they release the qi or the energy. So is that a similar way or not necessary?
Someone like me developed on both tracks, so that does happen.
I see.
But it is emitting qi is not part of the Alexander technique in the way it's taught. But everything is energy. If you're organized, and energy can just start to flow, So I can work hands off. I bring some what I would call Qigong healing to the person. And that's when I can move off the body, or I could stay over the dantian, upper lower come to the head, to the feet, and help to brush the energy. And I've found through feedback that that's also very effective. It's different than the Alexander technique, but I think I found that I was effective in that way because of the Alexander technique and what I learned there.
Great. So you are kind of fuse both techniques and theories together and to help people.
Yeah,
right?
when I think it's appropriate with the particular student or person in front of me, then I'll bring in this other aspect of the Qigong healing. It depends on what how the conversation goes. I want to be very clear with the person of what we're doing together. And when I see you, the next time I see you, I'll be happy to just put hands on a little bit, and you'll get some kinesthetic response,
yay!
and then you'll have more understanding. I do work with people on Zoom also. I have a whole group in Japan that are studying the Alexander technique, and I work with an interpreter on the computer with them every couple months. And there's extraordinary response that is happening through an understanding, providing an
So they are learning from you and to learn the technique to help themselves.
Yeah.
Correctly?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. Very, very interesting. I remember back, oh my God, more than 10 years ago, I was interviewing a person. He was a vocalist, and actually he was a tenor, got a great voice. But then one day, I don't know, throughout the time, he lost his voice. He could not sing anymore. And to him, it was devastating. And then not only say that was his job, and but also it was his passion. And then he became a totally different person, very, very depressed.
Yeah.
But he found all kinds of doctor and trying to be treated. And nothing worked, and until he went to Dr. Effie Chow. I don't know if you know Dr. Effie Chow, who was considered as the Qigong mother of Qigong, right, in the Western world. And so Effie treated him with Qigong, and so he was singing, and I just remember the facial expression he had when he was singing. And also his wife was sitting there, and she was it's now he became himself again, because for years, a couple of years, he wasn't himself at all. So and
there you go, another great story. I mean, when I work at the Boston Conservatory here in Boston, and
yes, tell me about it. It looks like it's a performing arts school, right?
Yes, that's right. We have dancers, singers, or vocalists, actors, instrumentalists. Now I work there in the capacity of a teacher trainer in an Alexander technique training course with some colleagues.
I see.
So we've been graduating people for, many years. And all of them, most of them are musicians or actors or singers. Every now and then we'll have a physical therapist come from outside, but they want to be in the training course, and that's all fine. But on Fridays, we work with the injured dancers. So there always seems to be, it's you use your body and vigorously in any activity, dancing, sports, people get injuries.
Yes.
So we just work with them for maybe 15 minutes to give them an understanding of how they can deal with the injury, and perhaps how they can find support right here on the ground. And one particular aspect of the Alexander technique has to do with the relationship with the skull on top of the spine, right?
I see.
I mentioned before the fight or flight reflex that we have that makes us want to duck and run or fight or freeze. The head gets pulled in like that when we're startled. And when we're not sure that the world is a safe place, we'll only come out of that startle a little bit because we don't want to walk around like this, right? But that's what I meant by the subtractive aspect. If you stop contracting, the body will then change of its own accord. We don't have to push it around. to make it a certain shape. It's not about alignment. It's not about tucking your pelvis, and it's about leaving yourself alone, basically coming out of the habits of holding on and pulling away. So when the dancers come in, if let's say sometimes it's a back injury, when the dancers, classical dancers, are performing, there's a lot of upward motion in the rib cage and a lot of like this. That's supposed to happen for the performance. It's beautiful. But sometimes the dancers will walk down the hallway like this or walk down the street like this, right? And they get into a very fixed position. And then the body's meant to move. So if you brace the body in a certain way and you move, there could really be some problems there. Turn that down. Because the thoracic spine, behind the rib cage, all of a sudden it becomes pushed up and straight. And then you don't have good flow. And if you land on that, it could be very jarring. So we give them the permission to just let that stance let go and find more flow. And when they do, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, well, I really like what you talk about the Alexander the system, and it's talking about psychology as well, right? And our emotion and mental. And in recent months, I have read many books and about the so-called mind and body connection. And there was a very famous physician, and he used to be was NYU in medical school, and he had treated thousands of patients. He was a classical trained as a Western medicine, but then from his experience working with patients, he found out a lot of these so-called physical issue was influenced or affected by the psychological side of it. And his name is Dr. John E. Sarno, Sarno. And he was really a visionary and a forefront. And now, I'm also, reading books by Dr. Howard Schubiner. He also Western trained at Western medicine. And he's not talking about Oriental type or Eastern treatment, but he's talking about so-called the psychological side about it. And a lot of they all address the so-called fight and flight scenarios and situations. That's what we deal with all the time, every day, right? And I remember when I used to work full-time in the IT department, at the end of the day, my neck hurt so bad, so were my shoulders, and it's all because of stress, right? So I'm so glad to hear that you are using the Alexander system, and in combined with Qigong and to help people, and this is wonderful. And so I remember how hard you worked 2 years ago when we were at the Be Like Water retreat, which was in Mexico. And
amazing place.
It was a beautiful place. And the program put together by Master Sharon Smith was excellent. And you taught a great class. But at the same time, you were so busy. Outside your class, you were videotaping everyone else's lesson. And eventually you put a very nice a video together, and for all of us and the attendees. So that was very good. So my understanding is doing videography is your hobby or your passion, right?
Yeah, well, it's changed over time. I think it was a passion for a long time, and now I do it now and then. I have created videos for small businesses, for holistic people with their exercises or with Tai Chi with Marie. She has some Tai Chi and Qigong programs. I've done some documentaries, and I just love the storytelling aspect with people. They've got a story to tell. Well, let's capture that. Let's have them in this situation, in this environment, and put it together. So the feature documentary that I made was it was about the journey to the West from Grandmaster Mantak Chia back in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
And it came about, actually, I finished it. There was an award. It was just very nice acknowledgement. But it came about because I was with a friend of mine, also in the Healing Tao system, and she knew someone who had died, who was one of the first people that met Master Chia when he came from Thailand over to America. And she said, those early days of learning, they're never going to be the same. We now have computers, we have different ways of being together. But back then, it was out in the field, under a tent, doing practices, putting the formula on a napkin, saying, this is how you do it. And so we wanted to capture those stories of those early days. In fact, Sharon Smith is in that film, so is Marie Favorito, because they were there in the beginning. In fact,
so
it's called.
When did the movie first came out? Sorry for my ignorance. I did not
Not at all.
realize that.
I'll make sure that you get a copy and you can watch it. We finished it 2012, I think. But I have to say, it was a 7-year labor of love.
Wow.
And interviewing people from around the world. Oh, so-and-so is coming to New York. Let's go there and get that interview. You're going to be in Spain. Good. You talk to that person. So Karen Sorvik was my partner in making this film. And we just went back and forth until we felt like we had a complete story. And we got the music and everything, putting it together. I really enjoyed that part and doing the editing. And it's a piece of history. It's a great story of what happened.
It is. And well, for some of you, if you're not familiar with Grandmaster Mantak Chia, Chia, and he's from Thailand. And actually, I think his heritage was Chinese. He has a Chinese name, and he was one of the few and brought the Qigong and to the West and to the US, and many people benefit from his teaching and turn around, and then they help other people with health. And well, another famous Mantak Chia student was Lee Holden, and some of you may familiar with. So Grandmaster Chia really trained a lot of people. So it's good. You did his journey to the West.
Right, it was a story of his journey to the West and the early people that he met, As I say, Sharon Smith is one of them. Marie Favorito is another one. And I was like in the next generation, that I came next. And, you keep going with this work because it works. It helps you. I had other levels of healing that would happen. I remember after emotional access, I had much more emotional access to how I felt. I remember doing a beautiful movement. It's called Hold the Baby. And it was so beautiful that I came into tears. I was just moved to tears by the movement, which I allowed to come. I didn't start bawling and crying. It was just, I had these tears that came from me through the beauty of the movement. And I've learned that emotions are information. Emotions are sacred. They're to be listened to be honored. And overall, through this journey of coming and knowing these different aspects of yourself, you become who you are. You don't become who they are. You don't become who your teacher is. You bring it in within yourself and your own practice. You get in touch with yourself and you become more of who you are. And I think that's where someone's true power is.
You just say this so beautifully, and thank you. Thank you very, very much for sharing your wisdom, and nice. So speaking of the retreat, and there's another one coming up in January 2025, right? And you're ready, right? You're going.
Got the
Oh
shirt
yeah,
on.
I see the shirt.
I
The
got my merch.
Yeah, that's the theme for the retreat, and so I guess this, some of you probably know, this was organized in a you know, how should I say? Yeah, was Sifu Rachel
Sharon and
Sandel.
Rachel are organizing it. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So this time the theme is shedding, and then so I think it's very nice. And actually, every day, you know, when we get out of bed, there's some desking on our bed, right?
Yeah.
And internally, we also kind of are reborn again and again. But if we don't do anything, we don't have a good lifestyle, it's sometimes the mechanism will not work that well. And then I think that's the whole purpose of the retreat, the workshop, is trying to teach everybody the way to do the shedding properly and to rejuvenate ourselves. So, what are you going to teach?
Well, I think, you know, you were just mentioning, if we don't allow for the shedding and the releasing, the letting go, the image that came to mind is the Charlie Brown group, Pigpen. You know, the little character who runs around and he's got this dust ball all around him all the time. Really cute guy, lots of friends, but he's carrying this dust ball of stuff around him all the time. And so we need to clear, we need to shed, we need to release on a daily basis. You know, breathing will help us do that. But when we can clear our system and the space around us, you know, we get more clear in our vision, we can be more present. And it's the year of the snake, the year of the wood snake, which is the inspiration for the theme. And I think that as soon as someone says yes to a retreat like this, whether it's the teachers or the participants, I say yes, the shedding process begins. And perhaps they start thinking of, well, what do I really want to let go of? What do I want to change? Or the energies come by and they help you let go of something that you maybe didn't expect. So I want to be supportive for that for everyone. And I'm starting to think, well, how am I going to form a workshop for this? And there's many Qigong forms that one can do to clear, because you bring in the good energy, and that takes out the energy that's been used or stagnant, and just by bringing in the good energy. But I want to empower people to be able to, you know, work with it themselves. So I might do something where people can work with their own hands, connect with the energy that they could build within their own hands to do some healing for themselves. I'm getting some ideas for that. Working with the certain conduits and portals and pathways of energy flow in our energetic anatomy, right?
Sounds very interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So helping that flow happen.
Well, I'm very excited. You probably know that I have talked to some other instructors for that event, and everybody is preparing something exciting. And so far, I have not heard anyone is doing exactly the same thing.
Okay.
So
Great.
I guess in a way it shows the diversity of the art, and that there are so many levels and different ways to help and the people to do the shedding and to rejuvenate and so
all of the teachers there, just having a meal together, we learn from each other, you know, what this means for them, and we share the stories of healing with our students, things that happen like you shared today. It's exciting. I'm very honored to be part of it. I'm really honored for you to also we spend time with me, have this conversation. I hope it's the beginning of many more. There's lots to share.
I understand that because the space is very limited at their retreat, and then people are busy. they not necessarily can take out a week, to go there, travel there and back,
Yeah.
and then spend the time to learn. So, however, I feel, and each of the instructors have, all high caliber, and has so much experience and knowledge, can share with everyone. So that's why I decided to interview you all, and then you have time, and you made the time for us. Thank you.
I can't wait to see all of them. Yeah.
So this way, and I hope more people will be benefiting and to learn something.
Yeah, I think that if you feel a call, if you hear about this and it just feels right to you, just follow your heart. We always wonder, how am I going to make it work? And sometimes it just works out because you're meant to be there. So it's going to be a wonderful adventure.
Well,
really,
thank you. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much for sharing your experience and knowledge. And anything else and you want to say, and before we conclude this talk?
I think with any teacher who's sharing knowledge with you, so don't take their word for it. Try it yourself. Find out for yourself. What is this thing about chi flow? What is that? So you learn, you get with a teacher, and you find out for yourself how this works for you. And keep being curious. That's all.
Excellent advice. Excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and Jamie, and
thank you
for coming.
Wonderful.
Okay.